back to the Andy Holding Speed Figures weekend recap. Sam Turner here, along with the Irish Fields Andy Bate. We're going to go through the fixtures and results from Saturday at Cheltenham. We're also going to have a look at the Naas card on Sunday, where there looks some real valuable Cheltenham pointers. Andy, welcome to the video. And we were both present at Cheltenham on Saturday. How many Cheltenham Festival winners do you think we saw?
Well, I have a suspicion we saw at least one, Sam. Probably not in the area where we thought we would, but I think there was one little gem on the card that we can discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the ground was a bit of a factor on Saturday, contributed to some small field sizes. It didn't stop Gordon Elliott coming over and testing the water as to the quality of the British representation, who were obviously Isio ran there, who ran very well at Kempton on his first start, but he was obviously too keen. And the race was run at a good pace, good first circuit, strong pace early doors, and that really played into Pied Piper's hands. A horse that was very experienced with John Gosden, had plenty of runs on the flat, and is now translating that form to hurdles. Yes,
definitely, Sam. He turned it into a procession, didn't he, from the top of the hill? I mean, in terms of where they went really quick from the last hurdle with the circuit to run to the top of the hill, they were much faster than everything else. And Pied Piper just kept up an immense gallop, didn't he? Which put all the rest of his rivals into the shade. I mean, he was actually the slowest home from the top of the hill, but there was just any amount left in the tank, wasn't there, for David Russell if he needed it.
And how did his circuit time compare to, say, Paisley Park later on?
Yeah, they were pretty similar. Paisley Park was a second slower. Now, considering that he'd gone the extra distance, we always consider that any time a 3 miler gets near a 2 miler, we're interested in delving a little bit deeper into the race. I mean, I was quite surprised with the way that the cleave panned out, because Aidan Coleman said he was confident from the top of the hill, but when I looked at the bottom of the hill, he still had 10 or 15 lengths to make up. But he seemed to do that really easily and actually went over the line with his ears pricked, which I thought it was a staggering performance and probably back to somewhere near his winning the Stayers hurdle of a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was fortunate enough to speak to Aidan Coleman on Monday morning, and he sort of said that Paisley Park's homework hasn't deteriorated at all in the last 2 or 3 years. Probably it's just the mental side of him that just needed reinvigorating, and hopefully this performance will have done it. He felt that there was a lot more in the performance in the long walk than people gave him credit for. That really isn't his track, and obviously back to a track where he's won 3 cleave hurdles and a Stayers hurdle, he was much happier. Coped well with the ground and lengthened well, didn't he, to pick up one of the horses who paid for chasing quite a strong pace.
Yeah, he was actually the quickest home from the top of the hill, just his own individual sectional, obviously. As I said, pricked his ears going over the line as if there was he could have gone round again, which was really strange. As soon as he whipped round and almost threw the race away at the start, and I couldn't quantify how many lengths he gave away, but it must have been 12, 10
to 12, I think. Yeah. Just put a bit of context on that Pied Piper sort of speed rating that you will have calculated compared to the likes of Constitution Hill and Dysite Dynamo. Where does he rank in comparison to those?
I wouldn't have him anywhere near the Supreme horses. I think there were Isio would have been the leading juvenile we had before we went into Saturday. Pied Piper did 64 on our ratings, which will compare to Isio, who'd done 65 before Saturday. But I would say that with Isio out of the way, the Pied Piper's got the highest rating. He's got a much higher rating than his stablemate Field Door, who looks visually impressive every time he comes to the track, but he's yet to produce either an overall speed figure or even really a sectional that says this is a Triumph Hurdle winner. I would prefer his chances in the Triumph Hurdle. I don't think he's good enough to mix it with the likes of Dysart Dynamo and Constitution Hill.
Okay, yeah, that's probably wise words. You can understand why Gordon Elliott's looking at the Supreme, because he's trying to split them up for the same connections. But yeah, he might end up compromising his chances of winning either race, mightn't he?
Yeah, I guess all that unravels at Leopardstown over the weekend when Field Door takes on Voin Ban, and obviously, I think it was well documented that the Mullins team thought that they definitely beat Pied Piper again if they lined up against him.
Yes.
So it'll be an interesting spring juvenile at Leopardstown.
Yeah, but interesting reading those quotes from Elliot that said that there was plenty of improvement to come from Pied Piper after he'd run at Punchestown, and we saw that at Cheltenham. He looked much more the finished article over hurdles, didn't he?
Yes, I guess that they're going to talk the horse up, aren't they? Because they're all aiming for the grade ones towards the end of the season, and
absolutely. So just as an anti-post perspective, with a few people going non-run and no bet, would Pied Piper be your idea of the Triumph hurdle winner at the moment, or would you hang on for the spring juvenile just to see the final pieces in the jigsaw, and then perhaps the Adonis?
Yes, I'd want to certainly get the other side of the weekend and the spring juvenile, because Quick Sirios last year, we hadn't seen what he was truly capable of until the spring juvenile. So I think they're the two big trials. Yes, there is the Adonis, but I don't think he's produced a Triumph winner for a few years.
No, and what about just wrapping up the hurdles really as well? Paisley Park obviously beating Champ, who might have bounced and recoiled a little bit from that long walk hurdle performance. Lisnagar Oscar are only another 6 lengths behind from a stable that are struggling to get a horse to finish at the moment. How do you rate that form, that Cleve hurdle form? Is it the best British trial that we've seen this year? Is the long walk a bit stronger? How do the times of those two compare?
Yeah, the times were fairly similar. When Champ won the long walk, it was more of a test of speed than it was a test of stamina. So Saturday looked to me as if it was a bit more of a grind, and maybe that's what found him out. I know that when he won the RSA, you can say, well, he did nothing but stay that day when he picked off Melorendo and Allaho in the shadows of the post. But for large parts of that race, he couldn't actually go with them, could he? So I think with Champ, if he turns up, he might not turn up the next day, and he might turn up the day after that. And I think he is a little bit in and out. But on his day, I think that he could probably turn that form around with Paisley Park. But I would still say they're behind, and they certainly are behind last year's time for the Stayers Hurdle, which Flooring Porter won in 76. We've got 68 for Paisley Park Saturday, so I guess that quantifies how much ground they've got to make up if Flooring Porter turns up in the same form as he did last year. Fair
comment. Let's get on to the chases then quickly, and then we'll have a quick look at Naas afterwards. Obviously, the handicap chase over 2.5 miles, the Grade 3, won by Torn and Frayed. What sort of figure did you get for that? Because it looked a very impressive performance. Certainly, once the horse hit the straight, he really hit the line very strongly.
Yeah, definitely. It was the slowest of the chases on the overall times. However, it was much faster from the top of the hill. So from 4 out, where they start racing, 78.6 for Torn and Frayed, 80.3 for Imperial Alcazar, and 83.2 for Chantry House. So you can see that the manner in which he's come home. But I actually thought there was loads left for him to give as well. I mean, the jump at the last, I think when we spoke about it yesterday, you mentioned Fonmouth, and it wasn't too dissimilar, was it? He cleared the fence with feet to spare. And again, in terms of, he's now done it twice at Cheltenham. He's done it on the old course earlier in the season when he was second or third to Annual Victus. He's chased home My Drogo. He's now won his own handicap, so he's actually got Cheltenham form fully ingrained in his profile, which going to the festival, kind of that's the first port of call, isn't it? Have you been round Prestbury Park? And if you have, and won in the manner that he did, then you're going to be a leading contender for the race that's chosen for him.
Yes, he's off 131 on Saturday. You'd think he's going to get 6 or 7 or maybe even 8. That'll just nestle him in at the bottom of the handicap, won't it? Nicely in a 2.5 mile handicap chase.
Yeah, that's always the conundrum, isn't it? Kind of where do you get in the weight? And I think you have to be much higher rated now than even say 5 or 6 years ago, because there'll be a scramble for horses to get into the handicaps to avoid some of the big guns over 2.5 miles, particularly in the novices and Bob Ollinger and Galopin de Champs.
Definitely. Swiftly on to the Paddy Power Cotswold Chase then. Billed as a Gold Cup trial. Billed us that anyway.
Yeah.
We saw Chantry House beat Santini and I Right. Fortunately, Simply the Best didn't seem to get home, didn't run his race. What did Chantry House achieve in winning that race?
Well, Chantry House was the fastest overall time, but he's only done 73, which he's got to be running to at least 80 to get anywhere near in the shake-up of a Gold Cup, particularly as the main protagonists from last year are likely to line up in Alaho and Milena Indo. So you know that the race is going to develop in exactly the same way. I think the figure we gave that race last year was 82. So you can see that Chantry House has got an awful lot to make up. And I really didn't see that in his legs on Saturday. It was all he could do to haul himself past I Right, who had been softened up by Santini. I mean, of the horses that ran in that race, I'd probably want to be looking at 6 or 7 places Santini rather than Chantry House. I thought he was going on really strongly again at the line, and he'd have an extra furlong to go. And he does jump really well. Yeah. I mean, as we discussed, I know we're talking about Cheltenham, but he looks like a national horse to me.
Yes, yeah, and the trouble with Chantry House, you get into that rhythm where you're rubbing a couple on that first circuit. It just takes its toll, and it's the unrelated pace of most Gold Cups. They just find you out if you're not careful. The rhythm you need to find is essential to the horses that manage to win the race. You don't see many horses jump badly and win a Gold Cup, do you?
No, you don't, because they'll be going a stride quicker. So every single mistake that he made on Saturday, which I think there was probably 4 or 5 of them, they may have cost him a length. That'll be 3 lengths in a Gold Cup, so he'll be having to come from much further back against much stronger stayers. Yeah,
they just get amplified, don't they, in the Gold Cup and the second circuits where the Irish horses will beast him if he's not careful. Quickly on to Naas, then. Well, a quick rundown of an interesting card at Naas, starting off with Statler, who enhanced his claims for the National Hunt Chase with a strong staying performance to win the Grade 3, the first race on the card. Second run over fences, probably not as polished as the first run. Is that fair to say?
No, he wasn't. I thought he jumped really well first time. I think in the interviews after the race, Paul Townend said that he didn't want to go and do anything silly at his fences, but he wasn't as good as he was first time. And Willie Mullins expressed that view as well after. So they're going to probably take him home and they'll sharpen his jumping up. Gary O'Brien asked if he was going to be Patrick Mullins' ride in the National Hunt Chase, and Willie was kind of leaning that way. So you can guarantee that he'll go there as the Mullins #1, I think. And they have history in the race, haven't they? The combination of
plenty of. But they've also got a strong hand in the race, haven't they? Got any number of horses, and I don't know whether he's better than Run Wild Fred at the moment. I don't know what your view is on that.
I think with Run Wild Fred, in terms of figures, he's clocked a faster time. We got Statler doing 70 on Sunday. I actually think he beat quite a useful horse in Farouk Delen as well. His form backs up into the graded race at Limerick over the Christmas period. So I think, in terms of Statler, he'd gone from a very average speed figure when he won first time, and he jumped with much more fluency. He was in the heat of a battle this time, and that's probably why he was a little bit slovenly at a couple of fences. But I'm sure that, as I say, they'll have that fine-tuned come Cheltenham.
It was a good race, wasn't it?
Pardon?
It was a good race, wasn't it? Sorry to interrupt. There's plenty of depth, wasn't there?
Definitely. I mean, when you think, On Baton, who's also Willie's as well, that had absolutely trotted up first time, and that was dropped out the back of the telly in the straight. So solid race.
Quick line then on the hurdles. We had Durasso obviously winning the Limestone Lad. The maiden hurdle was won by Champion Green, who's got Boodle's aspirations. Now they've finally got him qualified. I think everybody's seen that plot from a long way off. And then the nice guy in that maiden hurdle, the Malcolm Denmark colours, sort of might well follow the same sort of route as Next Destination and go for one of the staying races at the festival, the staying novice.
Yeah, I mean, starting with Durasso, he has a liking for small fields, doesn't he? And he had the race perfectly set up for him yesterday. Felix Deji did actually have a cut at his hurdles this time, so he took the field along at an absolutely relentless pace. Mark Walsh made his move on the home turn, and he he built on that pace. He actually had the quickest come home time as well. So so a really good performance from Durasso. But is he one of, is he a festival horse? I don't think he is, because when he gets in the hurly-burly of the big fields, he's I don't think his record's quite as good.
No.
Champion Green was actually the slowest race that we got on the card, but I think that was more to do with the fact that he just didn't have any pressure on the lead whatsoever, did he? He set out in front, he made every single yard of the running, and it was job done, handicap mark achieved, and next stop the festival likely.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when the handicap weights come out what he gets allotted. And the Nice Guy was probably, he was 6-5 favourite, he was expected, but I think probably looking at the hurdle performances, he was almost the wow factor a little bit, wasn't he?
Yes, he got the closest to Durasso in terms of his circuit time and his split from the fourth last. So he's only a couple of seconds behind, so that's 10 lengths for a horse who Paul Townend was quoted after. I'm pretty sure it was him. They said that he would go a lot further. So kind of whether they're going to have a go at the Albert Bartlett with him or not. There's plenty of time between now and then, isn't there? And obviously, how Willie lines his novices up is all done very much towards the eve of the meeting or even the eve of the race. So
yes,
yeah, but he was very impressive, and I think even when you look at those in behind him, Ramillies, the other Mullins horse, he made a terrible mistake at the last, left his back legs in it, and but he was a useful yardstick last year, wasn't he, as a bump horse? So I think there's plenty to like about that performance.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets lined up for a handicap somewhere in the spring, maybe Punchestown, something like that, or whether he's good enough to go and play his trading in Grade 1. I don't know, but yeah, he might want a good trip, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think the other thing with yesterday as well, Sam, just to mention with Naas, they had a lot of rain mid card, and the ground at the end of the meeting bore no resemblance to at the start of the meeting. So it might well be that the Nice Guy actually was disadvantaged by the ground as well. So he may have gone a little bit faster in respect of how close he got to Durasso.
Good point, well made. Brilliant. Great stuff this weekend, Andy, as usual. Great work with the figures. Your copy in the Irish Field will be seen and published this week, which is good. Plenty to go at for you as well. I should imagine you've got a few words to knock out this week.
Yeah, afraid so, Sam. Yeah, nose to the grindstone now.
Keep you honest.
It's easy talking.
Oh boy, you'll soon be as grey as me. Thanks very much for your time tonight. Great to catch up with you. And don't forget to subscribe or like our YouTube videos, and you'll get all of these on the lead up to Cheltenham. Andy Holding will be joining us soon with his appraisal of what's going down on the national hunt scene and the horses to keep on side going into the festival. We'll hear more from Andy Bate in the weeks to come as well. I've been Sam Turner. Thanks very much for watching.
Thank you, Sam.